One country was colonized by Japan, fought over by China and Japan, divided between America and the Soviet Union, and then became the battlefield of a war that killed millions. But how did Korea end up trapped between powerful nations for more than a century? The story begins in the late 1800s. Korea was ruled by the Joseon dynasty, but its position was becoming increasingly dangerous. China wanted to maintain its influence. Japan was rapidly modernizing and expanding, and Western powers were also pushing into East Asia. At the center of Korea's struggle was King Gojong, who tried to protect Korean independence while powerful nations competed for influence. Then, in 1894, China and Japan went to war over their competing interests in Korea. Japan won, and the balance of power changed dramatically. Japan's influence over Korea grew stronger. One of the people who resisted that growing influence was Empress Myeongseong, also known as Queen Min. She supported efforts to reduce Japanese influence and strengthen Korea's independence. But in 1895, she was assassinated inside the Korean royal palace by Japanese-affiliated attackers. The pressure on Korea continued. In 1905, Japan established Korea as a protectorate, and in 1910, Japan formally annexed Korea. For the next 35 years, Korea was under Japanese colonial rule. Koreans faced political repression, restrictions on their culture and language, forced labor, and other forms of colonial exploitation. But resistance never disappeared. In 1919, the March 1st movement erupted. Huge numbers of Koreans peacefully demonstrated for independence. One of the young activists who became a symbol of that resistance was Yu Gwan-sun. The movement was suppressed, but the demand for independence continued. Then came 1945. Japan finally surrendered at the end of World War II. After 35 years of colonial rule, Korea was free. But freedom brought another problem. The United States and the Soviet Union divided the peninsula into occupation zones along the 38th parallel. What was supposed to be temporary became permanent. Two separate governments eventually emerged. North Korea aligned with the Soviet Union. South Korea aligned with the United States. And then, in June 1950, war erupted. North Korean forces invaded the South. The United States and other United Nations forces intervened. Then China entered the war on North Korea's side. The fighting became a brutal struggle between competing armies and superpowers. Millions of people died or were displaced. Cities were devastated, and the front line moved back and forth across the peninsula. Eventually, the fighting stopped in 1953 with an armistice. But there was no formal peace treaty, and Korea remained divided. A nation that had spent decades struggling against foreign domination had now become separated into two rival states. From Japanese colonial rule, to liberation, to division, to war, Korea's modern history was shaped again and again by powerful nations fighting for influence. And perhaps the most painful part is this. The Korean people didn't choose to become the center of a superpower confrontation, but they paid the price for it. Do you think Korea's division was inevitable after World War II? Or could the peninsula have remained one country? Like, share, comment, and subscribe to Odd Archive for more history the world shouldn't forget. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from?